Screen time salutations to all your internet dwellers out there, and welcome to another episode of Screen Time Continuum. I am Nick, and I am joined, as always, with Keelan. What is going on, man?
Can't complain, can't complain. It's a pretty good Sunday out here.
Sweet, sweet. We're back. Took a little bit of a break. Things went crazy last week, so we had to just give ourselves a moment, and we're back at it again on this beautiful Sunday night. We're hoping you guys have a great Sunday, whatever you're doing, or whenever time you're listening to this. I hope that it's a great day. We very much appreciate all of you. Please consider giving us a thumbs up and a subscription if you dig our content. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the first episode of Moon Knight, which is on Disney Plus, which aired on Wednesday night. So, we did the trailer for Moon Knight just last week, and so we were kind of talking about what we might suspect from the show and how we felt about the first impressions and all of that type of stuff. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how we feel about it after the first episode and whether we are going to continue to rate it or just decide to do a series wrap up. So without much further ado, let's get into this review of Moon Knight episode 1. Here's your fair warning. It is a spoiler review, although there's not a whole lot to be spoiled. And it's been a few days. So going forward, if we do decide to keep reviewing this series, we're going to be doing it on the night of. So they will be much more spoiler-y.
Spoilerly. I like the creation. Let's run with the new word that neither of us have heard. I'm with it.
Okay, I'm down. But yeah, so let's just jump into it. Keelan, first impressions about Moon Knight.
Oh wow. First impressions, episode 1. More than I thought. I don't know if it's more than we bargained for, but definitely more than I thought. And I'll keep my first impression short, and I'll say the acting was as good as I thought it would be, if not even maybe better than I thought it would be. But I saw Oscar Isaac and Ethan Hawke, so I knew it was good. I knew the acting would be good, but they did. They could have just shot this as a 2-hour movie. It was amazing as far as the acting is concerned.
Yeah, I would agree. I think Oscar Isaac does a pretty darn good job. It's very heavy since he's the lead, so we're going to get the most amount of time with him. And for what it's worth, I think that he's pulling his weight in that respect. Like, I think he's doing a good job keeping me interested in what's going on. I will say the CGI was a little bit shoddy for this episode. There was a little bit of like, that looks a little blurry and a little sloppy.
I think episode 1 was done on a pilot budget, and hopefully the next, well, not necessarily hopefully, but I'm thinking the next 5 episodes are definitely gonna have a little more quality to them. But there was a lot of tricks in this episode. I want to say that I saw a lot of technical tricks. And maybe they weren't even per se tricks, but just effects that can be done simply based on who's working on that set. I would definitely, I'll say this. If I'm putting it against episode 1 of Loki, Falcon Winter Soldier, and Wanda, this definitely had the lowest budget for episode 1.
Oh, well, certainly. Yeah. I would say that this is a pretty solid first episode. Aside from the CGI, it's a little bit wonky. But it's an interesting concept, and I think Oscar Isaac does pretty well at portraying this sort of splintered character. We don't get a whole lot of the actual Moon Knight character until the very end of the episode, so that's a fine introduction. I mean, it would make sense that you would want the first episode to be so focused on what's the dude's name? Steven, yeah. So it would make sense that you want that type of setup. And I thought some of the shots were really pretty. They were interesting. Some of the shots of Oscar Isaac in his house using a lot of shadow, a lot of like really close-up shots, mirrors, that type of thing. That was cool. So I could see what they're doing with this. They're trying, I mean, if I want to be cynical, I could say they're trying to be like Legion, but this is definitely not the same as Legion in many respects. So I'm pretty optimistic about it. We'll see.
I, if we're being honest, I could see where the influence would come in. And mind you, I didn't watch much of Legion, but I could see some influence. And I'll just say, let's say this just to jump into the what ifs really quick. I could see the person that created the full entire layout for Moon Knight becoming a show having watch Legion get canceled, and ask, all right, well, what do you
What
not
did
do
they do
to
wrong?
stay?
Yeah.
Yeah, what do
Yeah.
you not do to stay on longer? And I think one of the main things that I think we'll come to is it was too much about, remember how you read about it was this way, and all how great it felt to know that this is how it is, and Moon Knight's probably going to give us more of a, no, we're going to reinvent the character. And I think
Mm,
that's what this era of comic book characters is. It's more renditions of the characters we once knew,
mm.
whereas Legion came out when we were still trying to hold on to what the characters were.
Yeah. Yeah, on the first season of Legion, it's like you don't know anything that's happening until like basically the last episode, which
Mm,
makes it very difficult to watch if you're not really into the
the
story.
comics, right?
So I think that it's good that Moon Knight is sort of already easing us into the concept of Steven's multiple personalities. So that
Mhm.
way we don't have to be like, oh, what are we gonna? Is it a mystery? No, it's not a
Right,
mystery. We know what's going on.
right.
I kind of appreciate that.
Right. And just really quick on the, not just that with the Steven thing, something I noticed, and I was waiting for a turnaround with Steven's character, because in the from the lore or the background I read or I've heard on the character, Steven's more of like a millionaire, not a billionaire, but like a rich playboy type.
Mhm.
So to see him as, the 9 to 5 guy, kind of clumsy Dutch kind of a guy, that's an interesting switch, but it seems like they're going to remain consistent with Mark, him being a mercenary, etc.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
for
I'm,
sure.
I'm just,
I think it was too close to Batman.
I think that's what I'm feeling too. Like, I think I'm curious to know how far they're going to go with that, because I feel like they're taking that new route so that there is no connections between Batman or any other characters in the past. Uh, I can't think of any real bumbling idiots that were, the knight in shining armor as a secret identity. And
Oh,
I hate when
yeah.
people, I've
Oh.
said that before, and people go Clark Kent, and I'm just like, when was he an idiot? Bumbling maybe,
Yeah.
but he was never an idiot.
Right, right, right. Unassuming, I suppose, right?
Mhm,
Yeah, that's probably the better word. Yeah, so basically we get this opening episode. It's more surrounded by what is going on with Steven and
mhm,
why is he locking himself up at night? Why is he putting tape on the door? Why is he putting sand around his bed?
mhm.
And it's we come to the assumption that he is up to something, and anytime he sleeps, that's when that something happens, and so he's trying to keep himself from sleeping.
Right. So what I didn't really get about the sand, well, let me not say I didn't get. What I didn't think about, or I didn't understand what the sand thing is he sweeping the sand up and then putting a fresh coat down before he lays down, or how does that work?
I would think that maybe like every night he just smooths it over before he goes into bed, so
But
that
we saw him dump some extra out, remember?
oh yeah,
We saw,
then I don't.
that's when
I guess he
I thought the
cleans
same
it up
thing at
every day.
first. Yeah, but it was weird. It was weird. And I was just curious. As soon as it happened, I was like, nope, writing that down, asking that question.
Well, it's a lot of like lycanthropy motifs, right? It's like the werewolf
Okay.
legends,
Yeah. Yes.
like going out at night, not being able to sleep, shackling yourself to the bed.
Mhm.
Even the moon in Moon Knight being kind of a look at the werewolf, and obviously we get werewolves in this as
Right.
well.
Well,
So
I'm glad you say that early, because I'm curious. I too thought it was a werewolf, and someone asked me, "So did you see the jackal?" And I
it
said,
was a jackal, yeah. Hmm.
"This, I promise, though, this is my face." Yeah, I guess a werewolf and a jackal are the same thing.
Well, the jackal is the African dog, right? So it's
Right.
like it's a werewolf in the instead of
It's
the
a man dog.
yeah, well, instead of the European like, black timber wolf, you get
Ah,
the jackal, the Egyptian sort of African wild dog. So that makes sense if you're
that is
keeping it to the
interesting.
Egyptian motif. Yeah.
Yeah, that is a distinct descriptive difference. You're right.
Hmm.
But it was funny how in my mind it was like, oh, werewolf, they say jackal, and just brain overload. It was like, how did I not put that together? Like, and we're in the Egyptian museum. Come on, Keelan, you're
Right. Right. Of course.
but yeah. So well, really quick, let's back up to Arthur. Well, not back up to Arthur, back up to the first scene of the show. They open with the pouring of water, drinking of the water, crushing of the glass, entering of the glass into Sandal and Arthur, before we even find out who he is, slipping his feet into glass filled sandals and walking upon that.
Hmm.
Listen, um, I don't know what kind of ability comes from that. Well, apparently judgmental tattoos come from that. But
Hmm.
yeah, I'm not sure if I'm willing to do that.
Yeah, he's got that. I think it's called asceticism, which is like when religious and people who are super religious, they do things to harm themselves in order to show their faith. I know,
Right.
like the Buddha, when he before he became the Buddha, he did like a 8-year fast where he became really really skinny. And he sat under the Bodhi tree, and basically he almost died because he just wouldn't accept food until one day a woman gave him some rice and he's like, yeah, why am I doing this? He just started eating again.
Like, you had
uh,
no reason, you just stopped?
yeah.
God,
Yeah, it's like, I think it's called asceticism, where it's like you do these really extreme things to prove your
devout religious.
religious, yeah,
Yeah.
your devoutness. Yeah.
Wow, okay. Yeah, never heard of, that phrase, that term, I guess the methodology, but definitely gave me vibes I was familiar with from, I guess, and I don't, when I say, what was that be? Sadism?
Sadism.
Yeah, sadism.
Masochism, really, because it's like if inflicted upon yourself is masochism.
Right, right. And
Hmm.
just not in a sexual way. I think when that term or
Hmm.
that phrase is used, it's usually relegated to sex. And it's like, no, some people simply just get pleasure from things that are different from other people. And it
Hmm.
doesn't have to be a sexual gratification, an elation, a level of some what people get from smoking cigarettes, right?
Some
That
people
same
like
level.
tattoos and piercings.
There you
You
go.
know what I
You
mean?
understand.
Yeah,
That's how I'm trying to explain it.
for sure.
Um,
It's that sort of pain thing that's going on for sure.
mhm.
Um,
I think it would be funny also to find out Arthur could be some type of a heroin addict or a recovered drug addict who turned his life over to Amit or Amit
Amit,
Amit.
yeah. Which
That's
is
how
not really, it's not really accurate because Amet, because it's supposed to be Anubis, I think,
what
that
I was thinking.
weighs the soul. But they changed it to Amet, and I think they did that for political reasons. So because Amet is a goddess and Anubis is a god. So I think that that's why they did that. To be honest, I don't know for 100%, but
I
you
know.
know.
I know you don't know, but it's the fact that it's plausible based on the way you just broke that down. It actually makes sense. We're not gonna go into that today. You
No,
know what?
no.
We're gonna let that ride the whole Moon Knight series. We're not gonna
Mm.
bring it up.
He kind of gives me High Sparrow vibes a little bit
High
from
Sparrow.
Game of Thrones. Have
Ah,
you've purged that from your memory already?
no, no. It's, you know what's really funny about the Game of Thrones? Just recently, someone told me they were rewatching it, and I thought to myself, that would be just something nice to rewatch this summer.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Especially
just
because
to
there's
rewatch.
details that you probably didn't pick up the first time. Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Listen, let's just say YouTube throws a clip out there once in a while, and I think to myself, yo, if they had Sansa kill like two, three more people, she might have been my favorite character.
Yeah, exactly. It's a great show. I mean, just don't watch the last 2 seasons. You'll be all right. You'll be all
Yeah,
right.
it goes without saying. Now things that'll be all right. In this particular show, I noticed they had let's call it the Marvel rendition of Big Pimpin'. Who
Yes.
gave up the rights to that? I mean, it sounds cool, but I see what they're doing there, and
Do you think Jay-Z gave that or whoever his record label was?
okay, Big Pimpin', I think was Blueprint, so that's a good question. Actually, I think that would be Warner Brothers. Here's the weird thing about ownership of records. Question is, who owns the beat? Who
Mhm.
owns that? Was that particular uh sound or those chords, the whistle, the do 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 do, everybody loves that part.
Mhm.
Was that a sample from somewhere else?
I think so,
Um,
right?
right, you get what I'm saying though? It's
Mhm.
like who owns that? And because that's probably not owned by, I want to say maybe that was a Just Blaze beat or something, but because that's probably not owned by them, it's probably not owned by Jay-Z. So then the question is, who did the homework to find out who to go and buy that from, or who to go and sample that off of, so that
Was
they
that not Swiss Beats who did that?
you never, I don't know,
I don't
because
remember.
during that time it was like, was it Swiss Beats or Just Blaze or Kanye,
Right.
or
Yeah.
he had so many people working on his stuff at the time. Pharrell, you
Yeah,
never know.
that's true, right.
Um, but yeah, so just throwing it out there, I really enjoyed it. Don't get me wrong. Every time it came up, I was like, "Oh snap, something's about to happen," and then I realized it was the soundtrack for Steven,
Mhm.
which was very interesting because it's a smooth for Steven, right? You see the character of Steven and you see this song that keeps accompanying every time he goes basically into a public setting or a setting where something funny or goofy is going to happen to him. And what I notice is you don't really get that when you're about to get into Mark. When you're about to get Mark, you're probably going to get some sinister music or there's action around somehow. Um,
It might be a nod to the fact that Steven in the canon is a billionaire. And so you got this song Big
okay,
Pimpin', kind of a juxtaposition of who Steven is
who you
in
think
this. Yeah. I mean, and like, who knows? I don't know what the future of this franchise is, but I could see where they might work into at the end of this series. He
he
becomes
owns
a
the museum.
billionaire. Yeah.
Yeah, I think somehow, some way he's gonna own the museum, or at least run it.
Probably ancient Egyptian treasure or something like that, where he stumbles upon like a whole bunch of treasure and then, makes his money off of that.
That's a good point. I don't know if he's gonna stumble up on it as much as steal it, but yeah, we'll get
Maybe.
there. So when he locks his lock on his bed, I noticed that the combination, they showed us the combination one time, and I copied down all three numbers or all three sets of numbers that were on there, and I'm just curious if any of them are gonna come back up.
Mm.
Um and I don't know, it's
What were the
Disney,
numbers?
it's Marvel. The numbers, the top four numbers, 7435. The middle combination numbers, 8546. The bottom four numbers, 9657.
9657? No, I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no.
I mean, doesn't sound like anything Disney specific.
But I feel like because they definitely zoomed in on it and it sat on screen for about 2 seconds, maybe three. I want to say it was maybe 2 or 3 ticks of the clock. Um, I'm way too specific sometimes, I know. But it sat on there long enough for you to see it and question, hey, wait, why'd they show me that?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, for
So
sure. I mean, it might come
take
back
note of that.
somehow.
Somehow. It might be the combination as well to something in Mark's side of life,
Mhm. Right. Yeah,
showing
that
some
would make
level of
sense.
connection. And I have some theory on how close they really are in connection. Um, but yeah.
Mhm.
So I don't really know how much more to say about Steven. There's not really much about him. Uh he's an idiot.
Yeah.
And
I
clearly
and I
his own
don't
brain
I
thinks so.
and I think his mom is dead.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure his mom's dead.
That I know that's coming every time, because every time he was leaving a message for her, I'm like, oh, dude, she's dead, dude. Come
I
on.
think I think his mom's dead, and it's been a minimum of half a year for
Mm,
how whatever's going on in with him as a person. I don't think he's been at the museum so long.
yeah, probably not.
Uh,
I think it was like 3 months. That's Layla said that he's been gone for
was
three
it?
months.
Oh, you're right. The phone call. I forgot about
Yeah.
that. Okay, maybe it was 3 months. And I'm thinking something happened, and Mark got some level of amnesia.
Yeah. Or Mark kind of created a secondary alter of himself in order to keep information away from bad people. Because you think of that, maybe Mark has some info that whoever the bad guy is shouldn't get their hands on. And so
Mm,
maybe Mark decided to make this idiot persona in order to keep him in the dark about what Moon Knight is doing.
that's fair. That is a rabbit hole. But that is
I mean, it would be kind of a cool strategy if you knew that the information that you have could be dangerous, then you create some sort of alter of yourself that doesn't know any of it, and then you just let that person run the body.
Right. Well, and also for me, that lends to, I have a theory on how strong their mind is. Stephen, Mark, whichever is the actual person or the first person. I have a theory on how strong their brain is to be able to house not just these two personalities or possibly three personalities, but this supernatural entity as well. And Steven just isn't aware of his level of strength because it's not something he's needed. And like you're saying, what you're saying makes sense in that manner, that he could be the construct created to protect Mark versus Mark being the protector of Steven.
Yeah, I could see where his ignorance about whatever would just be convenient, because if he falls into the hands of the bad guys, he knows nothing.
Click into that, right?
Yeah.
And just ironically, the Steven persona became too stronger than expected because you're an obsessive person, Mark. Because that's what I get. I get that they are obsessive. Whatever they like or whatever they get into it, and they get into it deep. So he's working at the Egyptian Museum and he's reading about everything Egyptian, learning about the Ennead, all of the Egyptian gods. And it almost seems to me as if he had no interest in those things before, but now they are a huge part of his study.
Or it could just be that since Steven is a amnesiac alter of Mark, maybe Steven is just drawn to Egyptology because of the connection with Moon Knight and the Egyptian god. So, yeah. Just has an affinity for it. Maybe he knows all the gods because he has one living in his head.
So he's also getting the thoughts of the god that he's bound with. Ooh.
Yeah, I think some particular knowledge probably filters through, and that's why has an inclination towards Egyptology.
So what do you think of the tour guide? How do you think that started? How do you think he initially asked her out? You think Mark asked her out?
Oh yeah, I'm sure. He had no idea about it, right?
None. He was like, say what again? And then I like how what was her name? Katie, whatever the heck. How she asked him, like, so what's a vegan gonna eat at a steak restaurant? I don't know, bread, salad. Stop asking me questions, lady.
Right.
So something interesting. When he first gets to the museum, he's walking, he sees the little girl putting the trash into the pyramid, starts to tell her about the sarcophagus that's standing there and how they remove the organs, and then you have to cross through the field of reeds. And if you don't cross the field of reeds, you're rejected because you're basically not pure, or however that goes. And she asked him, did it hurt when you got rejected? And he's like, well, I'm not dead, am I? Now, right after he says, I'm not dead, am I? He asks, am I? Like a real question, but at the exact same time, you get old girl yelling out, Stevie!
Right.
And I caught that. And what it made me think of was to do a little more research on Mark and Steven and the Moon Knight. And I learned that in the books, apparently there is a part, or there's I guess a theory. I don't know how it goes because I didn't read it. I read about it, right? But apparently there is a possibility that Mark does die and gets rejected from the field of reeds, and that's how
it's like a Spawn situation.
Yeah, exactly.
Where he gets into the afterlife and he gets rejected from paradise, but he becomes a vessel for this god.
Correct. Yeah. That's exactly the theory. I was like, whoa, that means this can get a lot crazier. And that I liked that. And I liked how they even Small alluded to that, because even if that's not it, it's just a nod to the original work. And it made me go and do the research and learn more about the characters. So hopefully, even if that's just where it ends, that's a nice drop in.
Yeah. And I really do think that they have a kind of like a really interesting well of material to work with in the sort of Egyptian mythology, because like that's a really deep mythology. And if you get things like Sekhmet in there, you know, you have Anubis, you have Osiris, you know, Horus, Set, you know, like, man, that would be some interesting stuff to see. I would love to see
Right.
that. Yeah.
You know, I mean, I really excuse me. I really like the possibilities of that because a lot of the times we'll get like the Egyptian dives or all these different layers and they don't really lead anywhere. They're just kind of coming out of thin air. They're creating it.
Mm.
With something like Moon Knight or even like kind of leading back to Black Panther. Ooh, I wonder if Black Panther and Moon Knight are related. Anyway, just a thought really quick. Just thinking of artifacts, you know,
Mm.
the artifacts that can be taken. But
Well, that it would be kind of cool because you could use Sekhmet, who was the prototype for the first vampire, but also represented themselves as a giant cat, a panther that
mhm,
would, you know, that would lay wastes to villages and stuff. So it'd be kind of cool if you tied like Black Panther's mythology to Sekhmet. That would be
I think
pretty
they
sweet.
do actually in
Yeah,
some.
yeah, that makes
I could
sense.
be wrong. I could be wrong.
Mm.
But the thought I was having, excuse me, was with all of the what was it? With the Egyptology and all the Egyptian stuff behind it, they're able to dive into all of that, and it gives a real layer, a real background, so then we can find out how many other superheroes kind of came through that same vein,
Mm.
and that really could just connect so many, like it could be Black Panther, but it could be so many other characters that are out there as well.
Well, it also doesn't relegate you to a strict sort of like Marvel character pool. Like you can actually bring in like gods from Egypt and stuff and bring them into the Marvel universe if you wanted. Like that would be
Agree?
sweet, you
Yeah,
know,
agree.
like
More room for new characters.
yeah.
Um, so night two, after he goes to before he goes in on night two, uh Stephen goes and he's talking to the statue. That's a living statue, correct?
Hmm.
I
Yeah,
was
it's just
thinking
one
that.
of those people that stand still.
Yeah, I was like, is that a living statue or a regular statue? But damn, dude was good because I couldn't tell. But he goes and he's sitting and he's telling about his day. Uh that statue has to mean something. Like that person has to be important. I just know it. Or
Mm.
maybe another nod to something that we might not find out about. But I feel like that person that is playing that statue is actually important to Mark more so than Steven, like watching over Mark while he's Steven. I just get
Yeah.
this because it
Yeah,
didn't make
it could
sense.
be. It could be, but it could also just be a representation of Steven's loneliness and the fact that he can't really connect to anybody, you know.
Thought
And
that
so,
first, I thought that the first time.
yeah,
I
I
think.
mean, it could be, but I mean, like they could bring it back and to be like, oh, that was somebody that was keeping an eye on you the whole time. I could
Mhm.
see that. Yeah.
Also, when he was done talking to him, and he says, "I'll catch you on the flip flop." At that very moment, you have the reflection, and you can't really tell, is the reflection like an upside down or is it just the puddle reflection, but you don't really see him because and this is one of the effects I caught. So you have the physical person, then you have the puddle, and the puddle itself has two reflections.
Mm.
You're not seeing, and it almost looks like you're still seeing the person standing, but you're seeing the puddle, and it has the reflection and then a mirror of the reflection, and it looks like the actual person. And it made me curious as to the two people, and that's what made me think the statue was also possibly someone related, because that's the only time we get an effect similar to that, other
Mm.
than a fever dream looking kind of scene when he comes out of one of his dreams.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, so that little image flicker thing magic they did there, that change, that's what made me think that this person was, or that statue was important to Mark more so than Steven.
Yeah, I think we're falling into the same trap as like WandaVision though
I
too,
hope
right?
not.
Where it's like we're theorizing things that are might be better than the actual story.
I mean,
Uh,
I'll say that so far, I mean, episode one, this is definitely better than WandaVision, hands down.
yeah.
Episode one
Yeah.
of WandaVision was more of a WTF, like, why are we even talking about this already?
Mhm.
Like, there
Yeah.
was nothing to talk about.
I liked WandaVision up until the end, basically, where like they didn't punish her for doing the things that she did.
Where,
where the one of the characters tells Wanda they'll never know what you sacrificed. Like,
she just had a heart attack and plowed through a farmer's market, huh?
mm-hmm.
I've been in California way too long, bro. Because that's not funny, but it's happened more than once, and nothing's ever happened.
Yeah.
So night 2 comes around and he locks himself into his room. I could not tell through some of those flashes because Oscar Isaac became extremely focused into the stay awake scenes, and I noticed he had different facial tics when he was Steven versus when he was Mark, which one of those things I noticed, and I was like, wow, that's good acting right there. You're literally becoming two different people. But there were moments within the drifting between sleep and staying awake and listening to the theory or the recording. I couldn't tell if it was Mark, like with the Rubik's Cube, and then Steven reading the books, or Mark reading the books and Steven with the Rubik's Cube. It got really blurry. And then we wake up of him having his jaw broken off and snapping that back into place like, Stretch Armstrong or somebody. He definitely looked like Plastic Man on that scene.
Yeah, and then we get the scene of him running away.
Well, before that, we get the scarab in his hand.
Right.
So that's the initial introduction. I wish we knew his name already, but I know the deep, dark voice is voiced by F. Murray Abraham. But we're not sure of the name of the Moon Knight God character voice in his head. But it sounds impressive and spooky.
It's called Khonshu.
Khonshu is going to be
Khonshu is the god's name. Yeah.
So yeah, Khonshu is played by F. Murray Abraham. Excuse me. I like their dynamic, like them, like it's weird.
It's a little derivatory of Venom. They tried to do the Tom Hardy with the Venom thing a little bit.
Dang, I didn't think about that. You're right.
Yeah, but I mean, I get it. It makes sense. Like, you have to have that character represent itself somehow. So
they have good, I don't want to say on-screen chemistry because they're not on screen together, but dialogue chemistry. Like just them having a little bit of a banter when they were in the truck. It was like, wow, they
like stupid ones away.
They do this well. Yeah. The idiot. Go to sleep, you pest. Like, what? Wow. But Oscar Isaac bouncing off of him and his aggression and going from lost and unassuming to being able to verbally compete with this thing that's in your head. And I mean, that's unnerving within itself. Again, to me, showing Steven's mental fortitude is much further than I think clearly than even he's aware of. And I think that's something we're definitely going to get as this series goes, is Steven's development into, I wouldn't say a mercenary or a hardened criminal, but just a more rounded person. A kind of more understanding of what's going on, not just in that realm, but around the.
I think we'll get one episode of where like Steven's origin story is, and then it'll be some sort of, it's going to be weird because it's like I think they're probably going to keep both Steven and Mark, you know what I mean? Like throughout the whole series. Like, I don't think that one is just going to take over.
I think we'll get both through every episode.
Right.
Now I think like this episode is more Steven, the next episode might be more Mark, but we'll get both through the episode.
It's a pretty ingenious trick to have those cuts whenever there's action. You don't have to pay. You don't have to pay for it.
I mean, hey man, you can't think they've been doing this long and they ain't found a couple of loopholes. And honestly, that's not a loophole I'm mad at. I mean, I'm not mad at, but
it's fine for now. But I would see it getting kind of old if they keep trying to do that over and over again. But yeah, so he's driving through the Alps in Germany. I think that's where they are. And there's a whole chase, and the chase was fine. I feel like the music was a little bit too upbeat. Like they tried to make it funny with the music, and
Oh
I was
yeah,
like,
yeah.
This would have been better if it was like a really good
More
thriller.
serious. Yeah,
Yeah,
they try to
more
make it a
serious.
slapstick comedy type of and
Yeah,
honestly, I didn't get that vibe from it, but you reminded me of the music.
it
And then
was
I'm thinking of the
goofy. I forget
shots.
what music they were playing. I forgot what song it was.
No, you're right. I can't remember the song either, but just the feeling of it. Some of the shots were a little bright, really
Hmm.
colorful shots, which in your face, like, oh, we're coming around the bend, and like, okay, we don't. It's action. I'm sorry. That's what it made me feel like. Like when you just brought it up, it made me remember
Hmm.
the
Yeah,
bright color.
it's the way Disney does stuff. It's like they don't like to have serious moments. So it's like if there's something serious, you have to juxtapose it with something funny.
It's like how they did
Uh,
the car
Sorry,
chases in
they
the
got to
parent.
make like.
Oh no,
What was that?
no, I said it's like
Sorry,
they
I
did the
lost you.
car chases in the Parents Trap. That's what
Hmm.
that scene felt like a scene out of the
Yes.
Parent Trap or something.
Yeah, absolutely. Agreed.
Look, you know what? On the ridge above, Lindsay Lohan and her parents were shooting the Parent Trap 2 up there.
Mm.
Were 3? I don't know. Never mind. Bad joke. Um,
Oh
so
yeah,
I
it
don't
was
know.
"Wake Me Up Before You Go Go." That's what it was. I'm like,
Was it a
why?
different version of it?
No,
It didn't feel that poppy, was it?
no, it was very
Oh no,
poppy. Yeah.
it was the see again, it was the shots that made it a little different because it wasn't
Hmm.
necessarily changing it, but it was changing your perception and you weren't paying as much attention to the music as you were the action.
Right.
Got it. Damn, visual effects will get you every time.
Yeah.
It's I think that's the beautiful thing about being able to reflect on those things, like having a photographic memory or just knowing things to look out for. Even when you don't catch them in the moment, like how you just brung something up and it was like, wait, let me run that back in my head.
Hmm.
Oh snap, you're absolutely right. Like it was, yeah, it was a good scene. No, I don't think it was. I don't think either of us are saying it was a bad scene. But if we're talking about contextually, that particular scene can be used as a promo on the Disney kids side of things.
Yeah, yeah. It felt very like, okay, things are getting too serious. Let's make this a funny song so that way we can make the violence kind of funny. Like
And
he
let's have
he
them
just
throw the
shot a
gun.
guy. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Look, let's have him throw the gun. Like he didn't just throw the
Mm,
gun,
yeah, and cars are driving off of cliffs and stuff.
right? So oh, now we didn't say before that we had oh no, that's actually right after that. So he comes down and what was
Then
it? He
he's at the
comes down and he
village.
wakes up,
No, he goes to
or he
the
comes down and he goes
village.
straight to the village, right? Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So he comes down and he's at the village and he walks in. Oh, you're correct. I remember it now. He sees Arthur come down and they're calling him Harrow, because his name is Arthur Harrow.
Hmm.
Um, but you see Arthur come and they're doing the judgment ceremonies in the middle of the square. And clearly they're in Egypt because at some point,
No,
Arthur,
they're in Germany.
are they in Germany? Because he speaks in
Hmm.
Egyptian and everyone bows or
Yeah, I think
kneels.
they're like an Egyptian cult. They
Ah,
obviously worship Amet.
got
So
it.
yeah,
So
but they're
I
in
didn't catch
Germany.
where they were. I was curious. I was
Yeah.
like, dang, that's Egypt. That looks different.
No, this is the
Well,
same.
different, but
It's
what's
the same location as the chase scene. So they're in the German Alps. So I'm assuming it's just like some small German village.
okay, got
Yeah.
it. Um, we see the judgment ceremony and we see the guy volunteer to be judged, and his ceremony or his judgment goes well. He's judged to be pure of heart and a good. This is a good man. It felt
Hmm.
very Lord of the Rings. This is a good sword. This
Not
is a
just
good
good, but good in the past, the present, and the
and the
future.
future. Yeah, yeah. I thought
Hmm.
that was telling. That in itself was telling. It was like, your God's not so good.
Mm.
God's not so good. You digging into the past and the future. How about we just judge the person right now? Um, hey, you know what? I'm not a deity, so what do I know?
Right.
But then we see the lady get up there, and lady, just because you saw the kid come down, what are you doing? You've forgotten your transgressions. I guarantee
Hmm.
you. I guarantee you. That dude was
Or
like,
she's about to commit a murder.
Or yeah, or it could be something that's about to happen. That was I didn't like that part. Like, or it's in the future. What this old lady gonna do? Strangle a cat?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
She gonna forget to
She's
peel
like
the
80 years old. What else is she
yeah.
gonna do?
She gonna forget to peel the ring on a catnip all the way back, and the cat gonna get itself cut and bleed. Okay,
Hmm.
too graphic, but you get me.
Yeah.
Um. So yeah, after that, the henchman comes, and that's when he speaks Egyptian, and that whole thing ensues. I think it's very telling also of how much control Mark still has, but he can't kick Steven out.
Hmm.
When Steven doesn't know what's going on, he knows he has a scarab. He's like, "Yo, take it, bro. I don't know what to. Yeah, no,
Hmm.
hey, I'm not doing this. I promise, I'm not doing this. Like, just take it from me."
Yeah.
And
Another little kind of Venom-y thing. Because
yes,
Venom
that was
Venom
very
does that to Tom Hardy all the time.
yeah, that was very Venom. And then the blackouts. Every time he
Hmm.
would lose the scarab, I thought that was brilliant. And I'm wondering how much does that take out of Mark to have to forcibly take control.
Hmm.
Um, because I'm just assuming that's what it comes down to. The brain needs a break. The brain needs to rest. That's what sleep is. And there's a certain period of time Mark has to sleep, and there's a certain period of time that Steven has to sleep. And I'm thinking that when Mark is going at his strongest, um, thinking he is the Moon Knight, so I'm thinking he has more control when the moon is not a crescent moon and it's larger. Anytime it's waxing any larger than that, I think he can just pop in and out when he wants to. But with a crescent
Hmm.
moon, he ain't got that much control.
Right. Yeah. Another tie to sort of the werewolf motif.
Mhm.
Closer to the full moon, the more power. Yeah, I could see that.
And I think a lot of that comes from just Moon Knight's origin. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, so he manages to escape the village after murdering a whole bunch of people unconsciously.
Right. So
uh,
yeah, and he escapes. That's when he goes down the Alps, down the winding road.
mhm,
That's when the logs come down on him at the end of that, and he
right.
pops out of sleep, realizing he was dreaming.
It was just a dream.
It's just a dream, man. What are we
Hmm.
talking about? All of these specifics and people's names. Who cares? He was dreaming. Um, so yeah, he's dreaming, and he goes and he's sitting and he's eating cereal. Discovers, oh no, ah, yeah, he's eating cereal, watching TV. He discovers that his fish now has two fins. What was with the one fin fish?
Finding Nemo reference. Disney.
Bah.
Just a
Uh,
Disney thing. They gotta
yeah,
they
you're
gotta
right.
they gotta do their thing to make it, yeah.
I got to be better at this, I guess. I guess I'm not as great about Disney as like.
Oh,
Even
they
I
love
remember he did say
referencing
it the second
themselves.
time. Yeah, they
Yeah.
do. And I mean, hey, why not? Everybody else does it and has to pay them. They can do it for free.
Right.
Um, I remember the girl did say that. She's like, "What is? There ain't no finding Nemos around here." And it was like, "What?" It went over my
Mhm.
head. But you're right. That's what it was. He finds the phone. No, actually, before he finds the phone, he discovers it's. He finds out it's almost 7. Runs and gets ready for his date with the old girl, which I don't blame him. I would have dropped everything to go too. But then he finds out it's Sunday and he orders the steak. What kind of steak does he order, Nick? Do you remember?
Oh, the best
The
bit.
best, the
The
best
best
bit.
bit.
How would you like it done? Very good.
Good, very good.
My
Yeah,
man's broken.
he's so broken. Yeah.
Man's just broken. We called his mom, told her how much, she loved the flowers, and he was already munching on the chocolates.
Mhm.
But then so he gets home, drops the chocolates and finds the extra phone. I don't know if Mark is a mercenary, he would be much better at hiding shit from his Dutch side, I would assume, than leaving scratch marks and like that was just weird, obvious. It's like
Yeah.
he wanted Steven to figure it out.
Yeah, kind of like he does, but then he does talk to Steven and say, like, "You don't wanna keep
You don't
digging,
want
stop
to, yeah.
looking?" And so maybe it's one of those things where, like, Mark can't control it, like, Steven's trying to find more and more about the truth.
So
Maybe
he
that
sees
was
what he
yeah,
doesn't want him to see anyway.
right.
Got you. So yeah, because again, they're in the same body, they're sharing a brain. So he knows these things, he just doesn't know he knows these things.
Mhm.
You're absolutely right. So he finds the phone. Excuse me. After, of course, find out it's Sunday, getting chewed out, and he calls. No, Layla's calling again, and I don't know Layla. I need to figure out what's up with Layla because she's a champ. All these months later, she's still calling. Mark, where are you? Why did you call me Mark?
Mm-hmm.
Who's Mark? But I noticed as he was scrolling, there were two names. There was Layla and then Duchamp or Dochamp.
Duchamp, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is like a sidekick of Moon Knight's, I think.
He has a psychic?
I think not like a sidekick, kind of like an Alfred almost.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
like if he's a secret agent, he would be his handler.
Yeah, like a handler. That's a good
Okay.
call. Yeah.
Nice.
But yeah. So there was
the golden statue dude be if that's what Duchamp, or maybe Duchamp is the golden statue guy. Or
I don't know.
Sorry, you were saying.
That's okay. No, where are we? So
he's found the phone, and then I was just going over the two names that were in there.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, at this point, he's just freaking out, and he's getting chased by what was that? Because that definitely
that was what's his name? The Kanush or whatever.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was him. He has the staff, and he's got like the ibis face, like the bird's face. Yeah.
Right. Okay. I was thinking that was something else that was trying to break out, and not him as well.
No, that's the god. The god is pissed at him, obviously.
If I'm sure he doesn't like Steven, clearly. And I'm thinking that what can happen is he can himself take over Steven and put Steven out, but that will leave Mark out as well. And I'm thinking it's Mark's job to stay between the two.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, they probably have some sort of deal worked out.
And that's probably that's why I like the theory you came up with of Mark creating Steven, Stevie, because again, he would need that other side of him even to hide from the god, so that he still remains some level of human.
Yeah, and it would make sense that Mark might want to keep some information away from the god too. So yeah.
Specifically some things about humanity, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Oh, maybe he is trying to learn how to separate from the god but keep the power.
Maybe. Yeah.
Harness
or just separate from him, period.
In general, yeah, like, hey, yo, go back into the box.
I
don't need you. Look, I got guns.
What else happens?
So yeah, that from there he goes back to work. Crazy
Arthur
day.
meets him there.
Yeah, he said crazy day. But once he's declared that there is chaos in him, he allows him to flee. But he kind of just runs himself into a corner. I mean, he runs and
he stays at work.
Yeah, that's why I say he runs himself into a corner, because he finishes his day and then you go do inventory, and then you're walking out and you hear a wince of a dog and you go back. Listen, bud. Listen.
You know there's no dogs in there.
That part. And if you don't know, Mark knows. And I'm going to need one of y'all to be the wiser.
And if Mark doesn't know, the god knows.
Somebody knows.
Somebody knows.
And if nobody knows, what are we watching?
Right. And so he gets attacked by a jackal man.
Yeah. So I'm also curious. In one of the trailers, I remember, it was not one of the trailers we showed, but one of the trailers that I saw, they show a clip of Arthur actually summoning the jackal werewolf thing.
Yeah, that was a video. One of the teasers they did.
That they had released to influencers, et cetera. What's weird to me is that's not in this episode.
No, that's probably later on. But it is Arthur that is summoning him. So.
But it looks like the exact same type of animal or monster, demon, whatever you want to call it.
Probably like a demon, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm just curious as to, with that not being shown, will we be seeing the same level of creature once again? And why will we see the same one consistently?
It seems like that might just be the monster that they're going to go with.
Front level monster.
Yeah, they're like the minion. So like this the servants of Amet or whatever,
Are
you know, and
jackals.
and so
Well,
they'll just
she's a
have
deity, and they do
yeah.
have that works. That works. Look, that works out.
Mm-hmm.
That works out. Um, yeah. Oh, so as he's walking, there was a few things that they did in him walking through the museum that were interesting. One was he was walking and he walked towards that half statue. I didn't get a chance to look up the name of the statue with the half a head, but as he
Mm.
walked towards it, he said, "Can you hear me? I can hear you." And then as he turned back, first you have him walking towards the half statue from this direction. Then you have him facing here where his head completes the statue. And then he
Mm.
walks away and he looks like directly towards the camera. I'm curious. I really wish I had remembered to look up who or what that statue was, if anybody had figured it out already, or if that information's out there, because I think that's gonna be important as well. Or it could again, it's episode one, it's a pilot, so there could be just simply a lot of things that we're thinking or hoping could tie together, could just be references to the source material.
It also might be like a sort of like a cinematic reference to Mark coming out. Like, you know,
Mhm.
maybe every time Mark comes out, you start to see imagery of like the, you know, like the
Ah,
two-facedness or the split personality or like the
true.
dualism. Because that's why you see him in the reflection, right? He's a
Immediately after that,
reflection. Right.
you do. Only a few frames later.
Mhm.
Something else I noticed is every time we see a reflection of Mark, there is a double reflection, which insinuates three personalities, I would think. So I'm thinking we're still waiting on one personality to emerge.
The
That's
cab
not
driver.
the what?
The cab driver. So Moon Knight is a billionaire, Steven,
Mhm.
mercenary Mark, and then a cab driver.
Oh snap! So there
Yeah.
is another personality that I'm not aware of yet. I'm still figuring this out.
So they might actually switch it around so that like Steven is sort of the cab driver personality, and maybe there is like a billionaire personality inside him as well. Who knows?
Okay. Which would explain how he's able to go about doing all these things and have a flat and all of that, but you have no recollection of what's going on. How are you paying your bills?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Or are we just over here worried about normal people problems?
Yeah, maybe. Then we get Moon Knight kicking some dog butt.
Yep. Which so that's another thing I noticed. The hieroglyphs on the wall. I thought that was amazing how they have Steven run into this bathroom or this basically a corridor of mirrors. And he's confronted by Mark. And even though he doesn't understand what's going on, and you see the thumping, it's like the walls are breathing the Egyptian hieroglyphs.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure if there's, if that's like, it's a museum bathroom already. So maybe that's like on the wall and they just made it glow and pop. But either way, I thought that was a really nice touch to go through that, have him go through the transformation and beat the werewolf jackal in that same note. Only because they only had so much time to give us the Moon Knight. I didn't expect to see Moon Knight in episode one, but by them doing that, we were basically introduced to everybody except possibly that other, if they're going to go with that third personality that you were
Mm-hmm.
just talking about, which seemingly there is somebody else there again, because every time we saw Mark there was a third,
Mm.
um which seems to be a little more docile, more of a spectator personality. So those things jumped out to me. I loved the ending and how they did that. What I would have liked to see them do at the end was not necessarily some weapons or anything, but I just think it would have been a little. It didn't have to be so much action for Moon Knight, but just give us a little more Moon Knight.
Mm-hmm.
Even if he like just drag while he's walking towards the screen, he's dragging the jackal. Like give us more action out of the character. Give us more
Yeah.
to the desire out of the character.
Yeah, they
Um,
just wanted to tease it. They got to get people on for next week. So
exactly,
yeah,
exactly. And guess what? Next week we probably won't see Moon Knight at all.
probably not. Yeah, yeah, that's for sure. All right. So I think that's it for the first episode, right?
Yep, yep.
There
That
was no
is.
after credits, right? I
There
did
was
look.
no after credits, but the credits themselves had a lot of different tidbits in them. Nothing I could really pull and say was significant, but it was nice to look at, and I'm sure that we'll find out that some of them are Easter eggs, some of the things that were in there.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, you got anything else, man?
I enjoyed this. I'll say it now. I am excited for episodes 2 through 6. Um, I would actually enjoy this as 8, and I say that because it gave us more in episode 1 than any of the other series so far. Most of the series, to even see the main character kind of come full circle, in my opinion, episode 1, just the pilot that came full circle. And all the other ones, we usually got to like episode 3 before we got this much meat of who the character is, and not much of the story yet, but just the meat of the character. So I'm excited to now get into the story now that we have a little bit of meat on the Moon Knight.
Yeah,
the Moonwalker. Sure. I've been fighting saying Moonwalker all night.
Well, and I certainly hope that Arthur is a more formidable villain than what we see so far. I mean, I'm not really worried about him that much. Just don't let him touch you. And you know, like
which for the record, Steven already felt that.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess it doesn't work all that well. And yeah, so I guess we'll see if he's going to be summoning hellhounds or whatever. But I hope that he's more. I hope that Ethan Hawke gets to actually do something with this character a little bit more, because it could seem one note.
Yeah, it's funny though that you said I hope he's more, and in my mind I said harrowing, and his last name's Harrow. His name's Arthur Harrow.
There you go.
Arthur Harrow is more harrowing.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally agree. I want to see a dangerous villain, man. I want to see a bad guy. We just don't see very many bad guys now.
A religious Bane.
Give me religious Bane. Who is the bad guy in Loki?
Loki?
Right. The hero. Yeah.
Look, I ain't gonna say it was Kang, because it wasn't Kang.
The bad guy in Captain Falcon or Captain America Winter Soldier.
Technically was
she was the Antifa chick, and they totally just said that she was right.
I don't know if she was the bad guy. I think technically the soldier dude, I forget his name right now.
Yeah, I guess he was, but he was a half-ass bad guy because he wasn't even really. Yeah, U.S. agent. He wasn't even really that bad.
You're right. Yeah, and then they sign him up to be Peacemaker's boss, and then Peacemaker gets his own show. I don't get it. Oh,
right.
You get the joke.
Right. Yeah. So I think,
realized, like, if I went too far with that joke, people would think I'm serious. Like, wait. You get the theory here.
Marvel needs to really get their villains down. And I think it might be suffering from Disneyfication, to be honest. Like, if you can't have like a serious villain, Disney doesn't like villains anymore. If you notice, all of their villains are heroes now.
That's true.
Maleficent's a hero. Like all the other classic here, villains, just they have their own day at Disneyland now. So it's like, yeah.
It's funny to me that the first was Rumpelstiltskin. Like, Rumpelstiltskin was never a good guy, but for whatever reason, people don't realize that he's the bad guy in that story.
Well, yeah, especially if you ever see Once Upon a Time, right?
Right. And I think because when you look back at characters like him, you realize that people want to like villains as much as they like their heroes.
Yeah, well, you just want to have something threatening. Like, I just don't feel like there was a whole lot threatening any of these characters in a while. I just don't.
I agree.
Give
him a leather coat with a fur lining, and then I know it's real.
Right. Yeah. Give them something to do. But yeah, we'll see. I guess we'll have to find out in the subsequent episodes. So what do we think, Keelan? Are we going to review episode 2?
I think so. And honestly, yeah, I think this can go very well, but I will keep it real, and we will continue to gauge this episode by episode. We might decide episode 2 is garbage, and this shit can eat dust, and we'll catch it at the end of it. But the pilot was good. Let's see how they lead into the material now that they know they have a firm check coming to finish this series.
For sure. Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I'll give it another episode. If it hooks, then I'm good with it. But like, it's gonna have to do something. And so far it's intriguing. So, like it shouldn't be too hard to keep my interests. So
Yeah, I mean, look, we've been to the Disney house for dinner before. This time we came in, they spruced it up a little more for us. They know some of the things we like. They've included those from the gate. Now let's just see what they do now that we're sitting at the table. That's how I see it.
mhm.
Like we've been here before, so we know what they can do, but what will they do is the question.
Yeah. We know the cooking used to be shit, but they say they have a new menu. So
Right, right.
we'll see. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for listening. We very much appreciate all of you out there. We hope that you enjoyed this episode. What did you guys think about Moon Knight? Are you invested? Are you interested? Is this going to be great? Is it there? Are there concerns that you have? Let us know in the comments. We would love to hear from all of you out there. And thank you for listening tonight. We are here every Wednesday and Sunday at 8:30 p.m. giving you guys movie reviews, TV reviews, and lots of different other things. We're doing trailer reactions now too, so be on the lookout for that every Wednesday and Sunday at 8:30 p.m. We also do podcasts on our own time and our separate time. I have a podcast. It is called Exofathom. It is on Monday nights at 8 p.m. Tomorrow we are going to be back, I believe, if I can get my S together, and we'll be talking about the end of the world. So we're going to have a conversation about the concept of the end of the world and how many times the world has ended in history. So you'll be surprised how many it is. So tune into us at Exofathom on Monday nights at 8 p.m. Keelan's got a podcast. It's called If Numbers Could Talk. He does a podcast Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. He has a Facebook page, a YouTube page. He's also on Spotify, so go check him out there. And he's expanding to almost everywhere you can get podcasts now. So If Numbers Could Talk, Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. Be sure to go give him a thumbs up. Be on the lookout. He's got some things in the works, Keelan.
Right. Actually, I was gonna say, I want to say tomorrow. Hopefully tomorrow. No, not tomorrow. Tuesday this week here. See, look, that's why I have to think about it. But we do have a car episode. So if you want to know about crossovers, not going to do too many. I'm going to do just like last time with the pickup trucks, only two particular ones. I chose the two safest crossovers on the market right now for 2022.
Nice. So check him out Tuesday night at 8 p.m. If Numbers Could Talk on Facebook, on YouTube, Spotify, pretty much everywhere you get your podcast. And be on the lookout. He might have another podcast coming out soon, to be determined. So we also have Dijon the Mustard, friend of the podcast and co-host of this one here. He has a Twitch stream. It's called Strawberries and Coffee. You can check him out on Twitch at Tuesdays and Thursdays, I believe. Is that right? Tuesdays and Thursdays at 10:30 p.m. at Strawberries and Coffee on Twitch. He also has a Facebook page or a YouTube page you can go check out at Strawberries and Coffee. But if you're a purist in heart, just want to hear us blabber on about movies and TV and critique things for which we have no credentials to critique, thank you for taking this trip through the Screen Time Continuum with us. For Screen Time Continuum, I am Nick.
And I am Keelan.
Good night.
Appreciate you guys. So you guys just gonna talk about this summer tomorrow? That's how y'all gonna do it?